there may be a few other people come, but we want to keep our schedule. And I just wanted to share something with you. Jody got in contact with this person, or he contacted us. Can you tell them about the story or a little bit, or you remember? Well, I know Mary does. Do you remember the story? This is about the Rounds, okay.
That kept me awake all last night.
Okay, well, I'll tell you briefly what we know. Michael Rounds was a soldier all his life. And he was he's buried in our cemetery out here. And he had fought in many, many wars. His great-great-great-grandson did some research and decided his book was worth telling about. And so he's written this book. It's available on Amazon and other bookstores like that. And we have a copy in the mansion. And I think you were going to get one at the library.
Have one at the library,
so it's pretty interesting to read about the different places that he went and all the different wars he was in. And so it might be something you'd want to check out and maybe buy your own book. So just want you to know about that. We thank you for coming, and we're so glad that you're going to get to hear this great story. And before I forget to tell you to come back for the June, because we will have the Taylors here. And I need to get your emails, because we're finding some people forget about our programs. And if I can get emails from each person, maybe I can, and you can help to share the word that way, and I can pass it, you can pass it on as well as Facebook. So we do want you to keep doing that. So we enjoyed the story.
This come up here and sit.
You have to go online, don't you, or something?
Get it? It's, you can buy it, just move this.
She might need to ask you some questions.
So we slide, and by Rounds, Michael Rounds, and you can get it on, you can order it on.
I might say the creek, Rounds Creek, was named after
Your
this
chair there.
guy.
You can sit on your knees.
Also, remind those who aren't here that they can look on the YouTube and watch this.
Jody was wanting to tell you one more thing.
Remind all those that weren't able to be here, family and friends, that they can go to the YouTube channel, or they can go to our Pikes Peak School page and watch this again.
By Lindsay Community.
Lindsay Community Historical Society or Pikes Peak School Museum.
That means we gotta behave. Because you're in school?
No, that's what they might say it again.
Oh, yeah, they might. I thought I had something to write down on that book. I just took a picture of it. Okay. I love it. You trying to keep up with me? Yes, I am. I am here to tell you about Leonard Franklin and Willie Franklin. And if you want information that goes further back, I can give you that. Because my great-grandpa was John Alleman Franklin, and he married Mandy Frances Snow. So that brings in a lot of Pikes Peak. And Harrison Franklin was their first boy. And he was my dad's dad. So Harrison and Cecil was married, and that's where we come from. Leonard, first of all, they had 4 boys and 2 girls. There was Lloyd, Leonard, Julie and James, or Mutt, and then we had Mildred and Dorothy. Charlie was married to Mildred. And then we had Sonny, the youngest one. And this is his wife, Doyle. And believe it or not, she is my only living relative. That's because on my mother's side, everything is gone. And she's it.
You get there.
Yeah.
You get there.
Leonard Franklin was the second boy of Harrison and Cecil. Davis, her name was Davis Franklin, on November the 29th, 1921, in Pikes Peak, Leonard went to school at Pikes. He was born in Pikes Peak, November the 29th, 1921. Leonard went to school at Pikes Peak when he didn't have to stay home and work. As most of you know that's older, you didn't always get to go to school. Willie Norton was born to Richard Durain Norton and Mary Emma Woodruff. Willie was born June the 30th, 1922 in Tupelo, Oklahoma. She had 3 brothers. There's Lonnie that lived at Maysville. This is a Norton. And Boyd, they lived in Texas. And Virgil, which was had a jewelry store, and he lived in Marietta until he passed away.
And that's the reason Billy keeps wearing all his rings and all this stuff. You never thought today, didn't you?
No, I don't have them. That's Mama's doing. She always had a ring on every finger. And I do good to get one on. And then she had a sister named Dora, and she married Francis Carver. And they had a creamery hatchery. There is a picture of it on my book, on the front of that one. And Mother worked there some for them. They took in cream, people come and sold it, and they hatched out eggs.
And that was where?
On Main Street.
In Lindsay?
In Lindsay.
In Lindsay, okay.
Yeah, it was right down there by where the movie store or whatever was there by, you had the,
At the post office.
yeah, and then
You know,
there.
that little, where the, she said movie
It's
store.
still there.
Yeah,
What do
it's
you
not
call it?
movie theater.
Video
It's a
store.
store.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that video store. It's vacant
And
now.
another thing that Dora, Mama's sister, had, they sold the creamery and went to a laundromat.
Yeah.
And back then, we think about laundry. They didn't wash laundry. They had sheets they ironed, pillowcases they ironed, and they did it for people and everybody. And my mama was stuck on ironing sheets and white shirts. It takes a knack to iron a white shirt, and that's fortunate.
It showed up on Leonard every day.
Yes, she did. Willie went to school at Sea Chapel, Pikes Peak, and Cox City. Willie walked about 2 miles to church or school. She led singing and Bible study at that time. They only had a preacher once a month. And he only came once a month. She was saved in Pikes Peak. She met Leonard, the love of her life, in Pikes Peak. They were married August the 2nd, 1940, at Chickasha, Oklahoma. Leonard, they went over there to get married in front of the justice peace or whatever it was they did. And Leonard had a quarter in his pocket. And he said, let's go across to the store. And she said, why do you want to go across to the store? We need to go on home. Because he worked on the farm for his Uncle Frank and Aunt Clara, Cheryl. And he bought a Bible for their house. He thought that you don't have a home without a Bible. They married August the 2nd, 1940 at Chickasha. I think I said that. Leonard worked for his uncle, and they lived in a one-room house. They first got married, Leonard Willie, then they had 2 children, Leonard Jr., and he was born August the 22nd, 1943, in Lindsay. And Leta Kay was born January the 23rd, 1946, in Lindsay. Willie worked for her sister. I told you that, a lot of that. The family lived, my dad started pipelining. as most of you know, that was a construction job, and they moved around.
Was they saying a lot of things?
Yeah,
No.
and then they quit, then he bought a service station. But the thing of it is, I was counting, I've lived in 23 different states. That's not just passed through, that's lived in.
Oh, you have flat?
Yeah. Because they moved around a lot. And, let's see, when they moved back to Lindsay, Leonard put in a gas station, and it was called the Adkisson service station. And he started in jockeying around with cars, so he sold his station and moved to Chickasha and put in a car lot. He worked there until he retired. Mom, to pay her way to beauty school, worked cutting and baling broom corn.
So did Grandma help her? Remember Grandma helping her?
I don't know, I don't.
Yeah.
He worked there. She put in her first, she started in after beauty school, and she worked with Helen Williams in a little old square that was on the side of the movie theater down there. They had, on each side had a business. And Mama says, I'm gonna move to a bigger place. I can't, they just walked over with
I thought
it.
it was in the front of the movie theater, but yes, it was, okay.
Uh-huh. And so, they moved down the street, and some of you may know where the old Reno building is. That is where,
The laundromat is now.
yeah, they put, the laundromat is there now, and it was called Hairdresser Taping.
Yes, it was.
And she stayed there 5 years. She had a 5 years lease, and she stayed there 5 years. Then she went down to the Gifford building that was by their furniture store by the Connection, Antique Connection. And there, she put in House of Glamour. She always had 5 or 6 operators all the time working for her at both shops. She really had a good business.
And I was the housekeeper. Mom and clean as well.
Yeah, at one time, see, you remember something there. Yeah, Mama hired somebody to come in and, put the towels in she had a washer and dryer and everything. She hired people to do that. And down through the years, there's a lot of hairdressers in this town
Oh my God.
that came from where Willie worked. Before she got out of the beauty shop, she decided to start. We had a friend that lived on the place, and the top of their trailer come off. So Mama, they wouldn't have anything to do with it. They was gonna move, and that's it. Mama bought it from the insurance people, put a new top on it, and she started renting out trailers. Every time she'd get one paid for, she'd put another. 8 trailers in all. And the house that my grandmother and grandpa lived in, she rented it out. And how that come about, when I was about 5 years old, my dad had just moved his mom and dad to where we live now. And they was fixing to sell the property out from under, and then they'd have to move again. So Mom and Dad came in and bought the property. And 30 acres of royalty come with the 100 acres he bought. And so that royalty sold for enough to pay Mom and Daddy's farm off in 1 year. And then they found a 4-room house that was to be moved. No bathroom, but they made a bathroom. And moved it to where their house is now. And all that started with a 4-room house, and they just built up. They built on when I was 12. They built on after I had my kids. And they made a beautiful house out of it. She always loved, you know, one thing she always did. If you was a renter, you got told about Jesus. She never, ever let somebody go without telling them that, you know, something about Jesus or trying to help them through Jesus. And that was one of her big traits that she thought was, you know, she quoted Bible verses. My daughter here stayed with my mother when she had a fall, and I couldn't find nobody to stay with her.
I was probably 5 years old too. And she let me cook.
Yeah, back then we didn't have the microwaves, you know, and stuff like that.
Back then we didn't have a fire either.
Yeah. And during that time, they did really good. They learned a lot of stories from my mother and dad, you know, life and stuff like that that we don't get anymore. And one of the things that Mama would always do, even though her vision was just nothing, just cloudy, and she would take them on a picnic. They'd get the little red wagon, and away the two girls and Mama would go. And they loved it. When I was asking the girls about stories, you want to tell yours?
We used to sit, they had a porch swing on our swing set. So we would sit out on the porch swing too, and she would sit there and she would tell me about when she was little. And one thing she said was she never had a new dress until she was about 7 years old. And her brother came in from the service with a brand new dress, and it made her mom and dad so mad because he had spent that money on a brand new dress, and they said she didn't need it. That she was so proud of that little dress. She said it was just like Christmas, and because he brought that into her. But her brothers and sisters were way older than her. There was like 16 years difference between her and the youngest one.
Now, there was a lot of difference between my mom and dad and the others. And my mom's dad, she had a sister, and they lived at Carnegie. They had a big farm. In fact, they even had colored people there. They wasn't slaves, but they had worked the farm. And you could ask any of them, they wasn't slaves. But when she came to visit Mama's dad, she would always bring clothes that her daughter had outgrown and a baby doll that my mama never had until she brought it to her.
Now, when you say your mama,
Willie Franklin.
Willie, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cecil was your grandmother.
Cecil was my grandmother, and Willie Franklin was my mother. And Leonard Franklin was my dad.
And I was her aunt. Forever.
Yeah.
She's the baby.
Doreen got married, I think, at about 15.
16. Cut it short.
Yeah.
And I was married to the same guy, so he did it before me. And
Yeah.
he's not around no more. You know.
Well, Daddy's oldest brother, Lloyd, was married to the same person until she passed away. And then she married, can you tell me? Wanda Harris.
Oh.
And they lived together for a while, and then Wanda passed away, and then my dad passed away. My uncle passed away.
Well, then they quit trying to get married because he couldn't live. You know?
Yeah, okay. But Lloyd had 3 girls. And that's Tawana, Celesta, that came to church for a while, okay, and Zareda. The only ones, let's see, Tawana lives in Arkansas, Zareda lives in Oklahoma City.
Celeste lived in Aaron Springs for several years.
Yes, she did. And Zareda had 1 child, and she had 2 boys. She had a girl. And let's see, Celesta had 3. She had 2 boys and a girl. And Tawana had a girl, a set of twin boys and a girl. And then when we get down to mine, I told you I've got a brother, and that's it. And then, next we have Nut. And he had a daughter named Shirley. She lived right over here down the road. And then James Franklin, which married Carolyn, your, is it niece?
Niece, yeah.
Niece,
Yeah.
yes. And they were very happy together. It just, James was diabetic and had lots of problems. James had 2 sons. Shirley had 3 children, right? Yes, 2 girls and a boy.
Okay. Shirley had 3.
You know, she doesn't give me any help with
I
that.
have to go back a long way. I've got that all closed.
Okay, Mildred had 1 son. And she lived in Oklahoma City. She married in Oklahoma City. And she lived in Oklahoma City because she went up there to go to work at some of the factories and stuff like that that had opened up in Oklahoma City. And then she kept moving. She was married to Leonard Willie. And they kept moving around. And she moved to Michigan. And then from Michigan, I think she moved to California, where she worked in factories till she retired. And this is Charlie, Mildred's husband, and his name is Charles Crouch. Just a minute.
Grouch.
Yeah. And then we have Dorothy. And Dorothy lived right across from Dolly down the road here. And she had a girl and a boy, Brent Langford and Patricia Robertson. And Patricia, after she married, always lived over around Lexington.
And Tricia had 1.
And she had 1 girl, and her name was Cambry. And then we have Sonny.
Oh, wonderful.
His name was Billy Wayne, right?
Huh?
When he,
Oh, Billy Jack.
Billy Jack, okay,
Yeah.
yes.
I didn't know his name.
I know it, okay.
And they had 3 boys. 2 boys. 3 boys.
3 boys.
Carson, Randy, and Billy Wayne. Billy Wayne had 2 children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Carson,
Don't ask me their names now.
Carson had 1.
Carson had 2.
2 girls.
Yeah, he married twice.
Oh,
4
okay.
years apart.
That's right. Dolly raised Carson's oldest child for a boy. She lived here with Dolly. And then
And Bill Wayne, I left Randy out.
Randy, he has 2 girls.
Uh-huh.
Amanda teaches school here, and
And whatever the other girl's name is, she's somewhere else. And that's my friend did.
yeah, she teaches
Well,
somewhere.
you ought to know their names.
Well, I did once upon a time. Maybe years ago, I don't know.
That's terrible.
No, that's not terrible. Because if you don't hear them a lot, then you
Well,
know.
just wait, playbacks are heck.
I know.
But I think I told everybody but mine. I have 2 daughters and a son. My girls are close together, and then somewhere along the line, we got a boy.
5 years after me.
Uh-huh.
I got a boy. And he doesn't live here, he lives in, Bridge Creek.
Mhm. And Lynette has a daughter named Kendall and a son named Jacob. And Kendall is not married. Jacob, she's a nurse in Oklahoma City. And Jacob lives here in Lindsay. He was in a car wreck, and a lot of you know he lost a leg. Now Jacob had 2 children by his first wife, and that is Cord. He will be in the 3rd grade when school starts. And Carly will be in the 1st grade. And then they have a God-sent baby. And that's the picture of the ones I showed y'all earlier. And her name is Moxley. Now, if you wanna ask me any more questions, I've got plenty of pictures. If anybody wanna look, that's my dad.
That's what,
That's my dad.
she always told me his name was Charles Leonard.
No, and his name, even on the marriage license, is Leonard.
It's one.
Leonard Charles.
Leonard Willie.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Cecil,
there's pictures of her sitting there on the,
Cecil Lightfoot, which one he married to?
Dorothy. She was, he's married to Dorothy.
The sister.
Yes.
I knew that.
Well, I remember him.
Now, let's see, Lloyd was married to, Freeman Harris's. Uh-huh,
That's the way the Harrisons got in there.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, Dad, he married a Davis Norton McDaniel, because that's the way their names run. And, let's see, Mutt married Sylvia Dodson, and she was from up around, her pops was from up around Oklahoma City. He had a business at that time as Dotson's Trucks or Dotson's Oilfield Service or something like that. And, let's see, I told you Mildred was married to Leonard Willie. Dory was married to Sonny or Billy Jack. And
Both of them. I was gonna
Dorothy was married to Susan.
Both of them.
How long have you lived in Narren Springs?
say 56 years, I don't know. Same house.
Well, it has to be longer than that because
And I think your other,
Oh, you lived there.
Joy,
I went, you
I think
babysat
your
me
other
there.
granddaughter's Nikki, is it Nikki?
Yes,
Yes, Nikki.
Nikki's her other.
That's Randy.
Yes,
Yeah,
Randy has,
Nikki and Amanda.
an Amanda.
Does any of you have any questions?
Yeah, how do we remember all this?
The Nortons, can you tell me where they live in Pikes Peak? I think I put it in the book,
You know,
You follow
let
that
me tell you
first
a deal about the Nortons. My grandpa, he
Drain.
was Durang, yes, Richard Durang. He lived in Sea Chapel at
Yeah.
one time.
Half a mile north on the corner.
Mm-hmm. And he had a store there.
Yeah,
And he was really a prominent business. But one of Lonnie's, was it Lonnie's, or I don't know, Mama, one of Mother's brothers, either boy or, no, it was Lonnie's child, that got sick, and he was a baby, a year old or something like that. And when he got sick, my grandpa put out every dime that he had to try to save that baby, and it still died. And so when they moved from Sea Chapel, he made them a place to live. He made a dugout, and that's where they lived,
in Pikes Peak or Sea
in
Chapel.
Pikes Peak.
In Pikes Peak. Well, would it happen to be a half mile, south of the school and about a half mile back north,
Yeah.
on the north side of the road?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
And he, like I said, he made a dugout for them to live in.
yeah.
Because, you know, he'd spent all of his money. And then he started working on farms and whatever he could do. But my grandpa was 29 years old when he married my grandmother. And he had been in the service in, I'm talking about the war between the states, the Civil War. And he had been there, and he was in there 18 months. And he hid out in an attic of a house, him and his troop that he's with, to keep from, till they could get out of enemy territory and back into someplace. But he had met my grandma before he went to the service, and he looked her up when he got out. And he died, let's see, he wasn't that old when he passed away, I think about 40.
Dora and Willie were the only sisters.
Yes, my mother had a sister that was 12 that passed away, when an influenza or something come around. And she's buried at Ada Cemetery. And then my mother had a brother that was buried at Ada Cemetery, and he only lived a little over a year old. And, you know, back then it was real common for the influenza to come around. Real common. Now, I can tell you a lot more stories, but y'all gotta tell me if you're probably hearing me.
Oh, no, come on. We like them. We
You
like
like
them.
my story?
We like them.
Oh my gosh.
Reminds you of home, huh?
Did you say her and Mickey were sisters?
Yes. I'm the
Where
oldest.
you been?
Where am I? I actually work in at Paws Valley Elementary. I teach pre-K kindergarten special
I've
ed.
never seen you.
Thank you for coming.
I live a mile from her, and I have since I moved out of their house.
I know
Yeah.
Mickey.
Yeah, Mickey
Yeah.
was in town more because I've always worked out of town. I don't think people put me as
Me and
around.
Me and Millie come here in 2000.
Yes, I
I'm
remember.
driving trucks, I was gone all the time.
Yes.
Well, Nikki was a nurse, and so a lot of people seen her a lot more because she was out to the nursing home, what did she say, 9, 10 years?
Something like that. Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah.
And she's worked at other nursing homes and stuff.
She's still, where does she work now?
She works for the Chickasaw Nations for sale.
Wow.
The Indians?
For sale.
Is it the Indians?
Yes,
That's good. That's probably a good place to work.
It is.
Yeah,
And they have lots of stuff.
yeah.
I'm the quiet one. That's the one. No, that's the reason no one ever sees me.
Yeah.
I'm the quiet one.
That's the reason you don't know your name.
That's the reason nobody knows my name. That's
Are
right.
you sure?
You've been here all your.
I've been here all my life. I was born in Lindsay and raised a block from Grandma's house.
Yeah.
And then I married Coy Ramming, which is Virgil and Judy Ramming's son. And actually, I lived right across the road from them for about 7 years, and then we moved over about a mile north of Mom.
Yeah, they bought Mickey Weisner's farm.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, and her house and stuff. So, yes.
You're a teacher, right?
I'm a teacher, and I teach in Paws Valley.
She gets her share of talking.
Yes, I do.
Well,
I do. I talk all the time.
You know, she started out at Norman and Alex, and then,
Yes.
What do you teach?
I have a pre-K kindergarten special education classroom.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
You may get Hunter this year.
Oh,
I
okay.
think he's going to Paws Valley School this year.
How old is he?
But well, no, you won't get him. Well, no, because
He
I
should
think
be
he's-
like
I think
second.
he's in 4th grade.
He's in 4th now. Okay.
he'll
I've
be
met
fine.
Hunter.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have?
I only have the littles. Yeah. I have met
Yeah,
Hunter.
yeah.
Yeah, he was at Bible school. He came to Bible school.
My mother's brothers, Lonnie had, let's see, two boys, 3 boys, and 2 girls. And they was Lonnie's, Eugene, Wayne, Richard. Richard lived at Falls Valley. And Juanita lived in the city. And then Christine lives in Missouri, St. Louis. And Virgil's kids are scattered. He was a jewelry store. And he worked for Mr. Dodd down here in Lindsay. And he worked under him and learned how to put watches, take them apart and put them back together, count the pieces. I mean, he would do a lot of things to trick Virgil.
I bought her first wedding band off of Mr. Dodd.
How about that? And Virgil had 4 boys and 2 girls. And Jerry, that had Norton Jewelry Store at Paws Valley, that's one of his sons. And Ronnie had the jewelry store in Marietta.
It actually is still open every once in a
Yeah.
while. It doesn't have to be hours.
They open by calls. He got some gunmen come in with guns and robbed his store. And he was in fear of his life and his wife's life.
I'm sure.
So, anyway, that guy shot at him, and Ronnie shot at that guy. Ronnie was injured, but the guy died. So Ronnie has not been, you know, we think we can stand up and do these things, but it still plays on us.
I thought he had arthritis really bad.
Oh, he does. He just had neck surgery.
Yeah.
And Linda lives in Texas with Larry's wife. Larry passed away. And let's see now. And Larry and them only had one child. And I can't remember what his name was because we never seen him. They was in Texas. Family reunions, and sometimes they'd come visit Mama. And then Marilyn, she had 3 boys, and she lives in Tishomingo. And that's Virgil's kids. Now my mama had, Dora had 2 boys and a girl. One of them was Arthur Dennis. She worked out RAC for years. And let's see, Olin Parker and Lloyd Parker. And Lloyd Parker had a real estate agent in Norman, and Olin worked for him a lot in doing things. And then Olin and them had a girl and a boy. And Wayne Parker, the last I heard, was here in Lindsay. He worked, well, Todd Parker, which was Ernest Ray's son. He's helped him a lot getting work and stuff, because he did carpentry work all the time. He's built some houses and different things around close. And the last I seen him, he was in Lindsay. I haven't talked to him in a while. And Sandy, she had one child, and she was teaching at Tishomingo there at the college, and she had a bad car wreck, and she didn't make it. And so Sandy's not been the same since then.
Doesn't she live here too?
Yeah, she lives here too, the last I heard. She used to come out and visit me some, but I haven't seen her in a long time. But Mom and Daddy thought the world and all of Olin because they played cards and dominoes, and when they cooked, Mom and Daddy cooked, you know, and they'd switch houses.
Where did they live? Did they live on a farm?
They lived out on the Darby farm.
Yeah.
Big lake down in there.
Yeah.
And did his wife one time work at?
At the veterinary.
No.
Joyce
no.
worked at the
There was-
veterinary.
There was give me time to think, there was a Parker, I think, if I'm not mistaken, worked for, at Dr. McRae and Dr. Denton's eye office in Chickasha.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I
No.
work on grandfather's crops. I need to work under my house.
Jerry.
Yeah.
Marion.
But I have a lot of information, I have lots of pictures, anything that you don't ask me about, the Nortons are in this book. I pulled out some of the pages so that people would see more or less who the Nortons was.
Yes, and her brother he lived in Edmond. He passed away a couple years ago from a heart attack. He had 2 children, Jeff and Kim Franklin, and they're both married. Jeff lives in Texas.
He's a preacher.
He's a preacher, and he has 2 children, and Kim lives in Edmond, where Catherine Gregory, which was Otto and
Maureen.
Maureen's daughter. and that's who my Uncle Junior married. And, but Kim and Catherine both live in Edmond. And, well, and Kim has three children.
Together, my brother had five. He had 3 grandchildren. He has,
Yeah, I said-
yeah, 3
I said-
kids and 3 grandchildren.
My brother didn't have 3 kids, he only had 2 kids.
2 kids, but I'm saying, 3 kids.
Okay,
Yeah,
he had 5 grandchildren altogether.
yeah, there's 5.
And their new grandbabies on their way, or maybe here, I don't know,
It's here.
it's here.
Okay, now the other brother,
I don't have another brother.
you just had one brother?
I had one brother, and he was 3
Okay, I
years
didn't realize,
older
I
than
guess I
I
didn't
was.
realize he had passed away.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he was 3 years older than me.
Okay.
And he was in the oil field, and they lived in Midland, Texas.
Yeah.
And that's where his son lives now. That's where he's preaching at. And my brother started working on the youth departments and preaching. And he, after about 4 or 5 years, he decided to go back in the oil field. He thought he was taking the money from the church, but he had to have a living. So he went back in the oil field, and every place he went, he donated. And instead of trading in a car, he'd donate to the church or something like that. But he was really well liked anywhere he ever went.
Now, did he have a heart attack?
Yes.
Yes, he had a massive heart attack. They had lake property in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Of course, one of the pictures I have at home was Mom and Dad there at their lake property. But they had a trailer, they sold it, and bought a house down there. Because they was always gonna retire down there. And he had been outside and came in the house, and got in the shower, and that was it.
That's what Betty Lou told me.
Yeah. And Catherine's sister was Betty Lou,
Yeah,
and Eugene.
yeah.
Eugene lived in Texas. Betty Lou lived
Eugene's
in Lindsay
passed
at one
away.
time. No, Betty Lou's not passed away. She's in assisted living at
Well,
Norman.
you know, the last letter I sent to her came back, and I
Well, that's
thought-
why.
saw it the other day, and I
She's
thought,
still
I need to
living.
Can I get her address from you?
I don't have it, but I can
We'll
get
get
it.
it sometime.
Yes.
But I was wondering the other day, I saw that letter, and I thought, I need to check into that. I
Yeah,
hadn't thought about it.
she hasn't passed away.
Yeah,
She, like I say, I seen her less than a year ago. Betty Lou had a grandson that was working in the oil field and got killed. And they had his funeral out here, and I met them out to the cemetery so I could see all of them.
the last time I saw her was when we had Twins Day.
Had
you
the
know.
twins
Yeah,
day,
and the
yeah,
triplets, you took the
yeah.
prize for the
yeah.
triplets.
My twins are now 13 years old.
Goodness, you're getting old.
I know.
Really?
How old are you getting?
How old am I? Well, I'm not ashamed of my age, I'm 77.
I started to say, you just told us a while ago when you were born.
Hey, you didn't
Up on
say
that.
And I didn't change it, no, I didn't.
You're just a kid yet.
Yeah, well, I don't know. How old are you, Charlie?
August, I'll be 92.
Oh, my goodness. We just had one in our
Well, I
cemetery.
didn't think it'd last that long.
Where's your brother
Well,
at?
when you don't
My
do
brother
it, you
is in,
learn.
Bridge Creek,
Well, I don't know.
Bridge Creek,
Oh,
he lives in Bridge Creek.
And he has,
He has 3 children.
he got 2 grown and 1 9-year-old.
Maybe, I think your family's had quite a history in community service too. It looks like I was
Yes.
listening to all the things you said about the beauty shop, the filling station, the trailer park. So
Oh, my
many
gosh.
things that help the community
Yes.
as well.
And you know, at Christmas time, my mama would always go to town and she'd buy a ham or a turkey. Cause a lot of them renters out there didn't have the money to buy something like that. And she would buy my ham or turkey and take it for them to Christmas, for Christmas.
And all
Mama.
the kids got those little red net stockings
And she filled them full of stuff.
and oranges and different things, so they all get
And we used to
everything.
throw names at Christmas. And one year Leonard got my name and he brought me this long petticoat. I still got it in my drawer.
Maybe he thought you needed it.
It was when everybody's wearing those dresses down there.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I took out the, I think I know what I'm going, I thought, oh, I can't believe that. I never did wear it. I never had a dress that long.
You know, all you had to do is cut it off.
Well, no, it would have
Oh, all the lace would have been gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another little thing, Joey lived with my grandma and grandpa sometimes. And
I've married her 10 or 20 years.
I don't know how long it's out there, but my mother was a real good seamstress, and she made nearly all of my clothes. And when it come school time, she would go down to Marietta, where her brother was, and make all them boys 5 new shirts apiece, and the girls a dress for school. And Dory wanted her to make something. She said, I'll show you how.
Oh, well, I must not have learned then.
Yes, she did. But she did. She showed her how instead of doing it for her.
It was making things to hold your curtains, that's what it was.
But Mama, wherever they was on the pipeline, she'd go to a dress shop and put up their deal for alterations. And she would do sewing the whole time, usually they were gone. And we met a lot of friends, and still have friends in different places.
But they don't know you.
No, they don't know me. I growed up.
Yes, I did too.
Is that house out there still vacant?
That was Grandpa's. That was Grandpa's house,
Yeah.
and Mama always kept it rented. But I had somebody come out and wanted to buy it. Mom and Dad's in that house, and 10 acres there. Well, I give in, and by that time they'd already found something. So I had a guy come ask me if he could rent it. What was it, about 3 months ago? He said, okay, I need to do some work before I move in. I hadn't been over there since he's done anything, but he never moved in. And I heard him tell his daughters that they were gonna move to town.
Thank you for all the stories.
Went upstairs.
Well, now I have, yeah, go ahead. But I didn't tell them about Tyler. That's Mickey's daughter, a son. And he works in the oil field, and he has 2 children, a boy and a girl. And Kayla has the twins, and then she had another girl. So I think that's all of my thing I told you about, but I can answer any questions you want.
Well, I was trying to figure out yours, because how many kids there was. I never did decide.
You never did what?
Never did decide how many kids there was always.
Of Grandma and Grandpa's? I don't either, but it was the best Easter eggs hunt you've ever had. Because we hunted eggs from Grandma and Grandpa's house to the barn. And we always had
Well, I
lots
thought
of
we had plenty of, with eggs.
those eggs.
Probably.
Okay. But we did. We had a lot of good times together, all the kids together. And they got that way every once in a while. But Dad had, on the Woods side, Leta Zeta Spain and Wanda Hamilton, which Wanda lives at Alex. And let's see, there's one of the boys named Cecil Wood, and there's one other, but I can't remember what his name was. That was my dad's first cousins.
There was only, Cecil was the only boy, wasn't he?
I probably had one other besides that, maybe it was, but that was from Dina Woods.
I'm kin to the Hamiltons.
And Cecil, you know, and them, they all passed away. The only way I was keeping up with them was through Carol, and I see Wanda every once in a while.
Yeah.
But my grandma had, Una was her sister. Let's see, what else?
Cecil,
Cecil, and there was a boy, wasn't there?
Well, I never wrote
PC
that book,
or
I never
Perry.
wrote that.
Perry.
Perry. Yeah. I started to say, I've got it all written down. It's really
Now
funny.
that's Davis.
Yeah, it was the Davises. And they are buried at, most of them are buried at, Bradley.
Yeah.
And, but one thing, I took a picture, maybe in that book, of my, of my grandpa's Bible. He was a preacher. And, I took a picture of it, and one thing I thought was so funny, he had the complete name written down. He'd say was born at 2 something or 3 something, and the date in his Bible for every child. And I thought that was funny. But you know, my grandma Franklin did the same thing, Cecil. She did the same thing for the kids that she had.
Was it just Cecil and Una and Perry
I think that
in
was
the
it.
Davis family?
Yeah, I think that was it.
I think one time, somebody must have went around the country and sold these big Bibles about this big, about this thick, and they had these pages in there. Yes, Mom's was full. It had everything in it about all of us, and all of her brothers and sisters and Dad's brothers and sisters.
Hey, that was a winner.
Yeah.
Because people usually get them and start writing,
Yeah.
and then, I'll do that in a day or two.
I think Mom's got all my kids in there, and probably all of ours.
Yeah.
Well, they used all that for witnesses back then.
Well, yeah, because my dad didn't have a birth certificate, my mom didn't have a birth certificate, and they went and got, well, like Aunt Clara Davis, Cheryl, she went with my dad up there to witness that he was born, you know.
Yeah.
And that my mother had to do the same thing with her, and her brother went with her. My mother, I guess, had an 8th grade education,
That's what
and
I got.
my dad was almost an 8th grade education, and both of them really succeeded in life. But I firmly believe, y'all may not like this, but it's because of God in their life. I do not think that, I think we have a very good deal like that. Because Mom and Daddy, was really good and everything. And people loved them.
I think all of the things that we learn about the people and different stories we've had, the connection that they have with other family members, that's what builds our community. And
Yeah.
the fact that a lot of it is recorded in the Bible, which is so important, because they realize the history and the genealogy is
Yeah.
valuable.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I think Lindsay's learning to remember about the genealogy and how we are connected together and how we're important to each other.
Well, for years and years, I looked for an Indian roll number for my grandma or grandpa, Amanda Francis Snow or John Alleman. I never found one. I found places where they had applied, but they never went back and applied again or something like that. But I was back doing my family history not long ago before y'all asked me to do this. And as many times as I looked, the person that had the Indian roll number was on Leon's side of the family. And it was in Tennessee, and his grandmother's name was Susanna, and Adkisson. She was married to Joseph Adkisson, and she was a half of Indian in the Cherokee. I just couldn't believe. I looked and looked, because all of them said that they were Indian. But I've got a book tricycle and the Adkissons and the Reeds and stuff like that. Because down through the year, once I started it, Leon wanted me to continue it.
Well, and those, seems like the families just kinda intertwine.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, if you sit and think long enough, you can find somebody in our family that's kin to you, just of
That's
course, like Carolyn and her husband,
mm-hmm,
you know?
yeah. And you know, in the books and things, when you look at them, a lot of times, well, Grandma and Grandpa's sister, my Grandpa's sister, they was married to brothers.
Yeah, that.
And that happened a lot. And that's just like Lonnie, mother's brother, they was married to a Harwell. And they was married, there's two of them married, you know, her sisters that was married to them. And that was Nora. And Nora and Lonnie always had the bagel and the broomcorn.
No, that was nothing unusual back then.
Yeah, but that's what they did every year, and then he was a trucker, other than that.
Well, thank you. We have enjoyed this, and maybe some people would like to stay and look at some of the pictures.
Oh, there are plenty here for them to look
It will
at.
be on YouTube, so you all can go back in and look at it on our Facebook page in the Lindsay Community Historical Society or the Pikes Peak
Okay,
School Museum.
thank you.